Hey guys, what's going on? It's Andy. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the LDK game. This is the first model of the LDK game. As some of you may know, the second model was actually horizontal, more like the GBA. So this is just going to be my opinions on this device. I've had this device for just about a year now. It's probably been about 10 or 11 months. And over the course of that year, I have just kept going back to this device. I just absolutely love the form factor. I love the feel of it. It's extremely competent when it comes to playing the games that I want to play on it. And without further ado, this is just going to be my opinions on this device and what I like the most about it. So jumping right into it, we'll just kind of go over the hardware here, just looking around. On the front, you're greeted with I think it's a 2-inch screen there. Yeah, I think it's a 2-inch screen, right about there. Don't quote me on that, but it's a decent screen, especially for the form factor. You've got the screen on the face, you've got a D-pad here, you've got start and select, A, B, X, and Y face buttons. And if you notice, maybe you can, maybe you can't, this thing is a fingerprint magnet, the screen is. So whether you wipe it every 30 seconds, it seems like you're still just gonna have some stuff on there. The biggest issue I have with this screen isn't necessarily the fingerprint part of it, but the fact that I have babied this thing and I still have scratches. I don't know if it's going to be able to pick those up. There's some little hairline scratches right down the side because this screen cover is actually plastic. So it's something that I knew was going to happen if I wasn't careful. I've tried to be careful and still picked up some little scratches, but that doesn't really hurt the unit in my opinion. Moving around to the right-hand side, you've got a volume wheel here, very reminiscent of like the Game Boy DMG or the Game Boy Color. Just above that, you've got the power switch. It's just going to be a 2-mode switch, so you've got power off and then flip it up for power on. And I'll go ahead and turn that on in just a second. Rotating the device around to the top here, from left to right, you're going to have the L button there. In the middle, you're going to have a micro USB cable, or charge port, I'm sorry, and a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. And then on the right side, you've got the R trigger or R button. Rotating around again to the left-hand side, we're gonna have the brightness button, the menu button, and a secondary SD card slot. I actually only use the one that is built in under the battery. This is just gonna be for loading other ROMs if you wanna just increase the storage. Moving around to the bottom here, there's not a whole lot going on. I do wish that they had put the headphone jack on the bottom just because it makes more sense for the headphones if you use wired headphones. But maybe it's something you can just deal with, I guess. On the bottom, the only thing we really have is just a little lanyard hook there for hooking it on a keychain or like a necklace or something. On the back, we're going to have the only speaker on the unit, which I think sounds really good. I've not had any issues. Granted, it's rear facing, but the device is so small and kind of the way you hold it, it just kind of brings that sound around through your palms. So really not a problem with that. Underneath that speaker, you're going to have the battery door that is removable. You got a battery here. There it goes. And this is just like a knockoff Nokia battery. I mean, you can find them everywhere, so you can always just, stock up on these and just keep them with you. Of course, it is rechargeable, but below that battery is the SD card I mentioned. Now, this isn't the SD card that came with the unit. I believe it was a 16 gig installed. I just went ahead and upgraded to a better quality SD card and a little bit more capacity. So we'll go ahead and pop that battery back in. Put the door back on. Now, my opinions on the look and feel of the device, I absolutely love it. As I said, I've had it for about a year and I just keep going back to it. It is just kind of a generic emulation handheld from China, but it really doesn't look and feel much like one. It's something that when I was looking into these a little over a year ago now, it looked like it might be kind of cheap and kind of flexy and just light, and I just didn't think it looked that good. Holding it in my hand, I can tell you, aside from the screen being plastic here, it feels really premium. It's got a really nice feel to it. It's kind of matte. It's not just like a gloss, so it doesn't pick up a lot of fingerprints on the shell itself. It's got a good weight to it, obviously being as small as it is, and you can see the internals. It doesn't weigh a ton, which is good, but it just feels really good. All the buttons feel great. The D-pad is, kind of mushy, I guess. It's really easy to push, but I've not had any issues with it as far as responsiveness goes, and I've been using it for, like I said, just about a year now. So we'll go ahead and flip the system on. Again, that's the switch on the right-hand side here. Just let it boot up, and I am running retro firmware. This is not the operating system that comes pre-installed with the system. I can do a video on how to set this up if you want to see it. The original firmware, the stock firmware, is very similar to this as far as the UI goes, but you're just going to get a little bit more optimization with emulators and just kind of ease of use with the retro firmware, and it's really not hard to set up. So looking at this, once you get this set up, you just have a couple of things, which is kind of what I like, because it's, you know, a lot of those things that have, you know, like an MP4 player, video player, music player built in. It just kind of, it's all this extra stuff that I really have no use for, at least for a system like this. So jumping into the emulators, you're going to be able to emulate pretty much any older system up to GBA, and Super Nintendo has no problem with either of those two systems. Even some PS1 games will run. If you want a handheld system like this to play PS1, this is probably not for you for a couple of reasons. It's not a very powerful system, and it's also missing a lot of buttons that you'd want for PS1 or Nintendo 64. So I would just not even think about buying this if that's what you're interested in. As far as anything from, like I said, the original Nintendo, any of the Game Boys, GBA, Super Nintendo, you're not going to have any issues with it, and even some PS1. You've also got Sega Master System and Mega Drive that do pretty well on this. And I will jump into a little bit of gameplay here. I'm not going to emulate NES because I feel like people do that, and it's kind of just a waste of time because NES is so old and so easy to emulate that, I mean, if that's what you're looking for, you can nearly emulate it on a toothbrush, so I think you're okay. We will jump into some of the things that I really like about this system. If we boot up a Game Boy Color game here, so this right here, I'm sure you can see that it's very cool and a little annoying. I'll tell you the reasons why. One, I think it's very cool because obviously you've got that kind of nostalgic blue, the Game Boy Color screen border there. Everything looks really cool, and I absolutely love this feature. The issue with this right here, though, is that this screen, the actual screen for the gameplay, is only about an inch from corner to corner, so it's very, very small. It's not unplayable, it's just very small. So one of the nice things, though, is that you can actually press the menu button, which is right there on right below the brightness button. And if you scroll down, this menu is just going to give you a couple of things. You're going to be able to load and save state. You can set up cheat codes on these systems. You can reset the game itself. You can also go into the settings, which is going to change. You can change like frame skip and the audio and different things. What I am looking for is going to be in the scaler. You've just got all these different scaling options. So we can go 1.5 times fast, and it's just going to, it gave us nearly double the screen size there. You can also go full screen fast, which is actually going to stretch it a little bit to the sides. It's a 4:3 aspect ratio on the Game Boy Color, but it stretches it a little bit horizontally, but really, really not bad at all. Now, something in my most recent upload that I mentioned about the LDK game is that I absolutely love this thing. I keep going back to it. It would be perfect if it had just one feature, and that feature is the sleep mode. We've just kind of been spoiled with things like the PSP, 3DS, the Switch, and especially our smartphones, where you can be in the middle of something and just press a button, put it to sleep, pick it up 20, 30 minutes, an hour later, and you'll still be in the same spot. Now, if this system had that, I've said that it would probably be my favorite handheld system for emulating older titles. Now, thanks to somebody that commented on my previous video, I have done a little bit more research. There is a new version of retro firmware that I now have that allows you to do just that. So now we have a suspend feature. If you just press and hold that menu button for a couple seconds, it just puts the screen to sleep, it puts the system to sleep. You're still going to have the LED indicator up here at the top. The power switch is obviously still going to work. You can flip it off, flip it back on. You'll be, back to square one. Or to turn the screen back on or wake it up, you can press that same button again or press start, and it's just going to wake it back up and put you in the same spot. So that's very cool. Now this other button just above that is going to be for brightness. So it's just going to kind of cycle through the different stages of brightness, the different levels. If we just press that, this brings us back up to our menu here. Go ahead and quit out of that, and I will show you a PlayStation 1 game. Now this is a hugely underrated PlayStation game in my opinion, but a lot of people probably haven't heard of it. It's called Rollaway. I'm just going to boot it up, and I'll just kind of show you what I'm talking about. Now this game is, you'll see, is not very graphically intense. It doesn't have a lot of demand, but it runs at a full 30 frames. So no issues at all. Now if you wanted to get into, you know, something that required like the analog sticks or extra buttons or especially more power from the system, it's just not doable. So that's why I say some PlayStation 1 games are playable. It just depends on what you're looking for. But again, I wouldn't buy this for PlayStation, and that was never my intention. I just kind of found myself messing around with it, and I did find a handful of games that worked. So let's go ahead and close. Same button there, just the menu button. We'll quit the game. And then we will jump into Game Boy Advance. We'll just find a random one here and boot that up. And again, same general concept. Start, select all the face buttons. You do still have the menu button. That's going to be, that button's pretty much in any emulator is going to bring up this menu or a variation therein. They're all pretty much contain the same options, but they're just slightly different from emulator to emulator. Something I have not mentioned yet, the sound. I've never played this game in my life, but the sound very good, no complaints. And this is a pretty inexpensive system. I mean, you can get these on Amazon right now for $60 or $70. So for $60 or $70, I think if you just have, you know, $60 or $70, whatever the cost is exactly laying around, and you're looking for something like this, I think this is a great entry point if this is the type of thing that you're looking for. My opinion, I absolutely love this system, especially with that new suspend or sleep feature. I'm going to be using it a ton more because now I can just take it with me, pop in a game, put it to sleep, pop right back into the game, and never even have to work too hard for it. So I absolutely love this system. Hopefully this helped you guys answer some questions you might have when looking at the LDK. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe, comment. I'd be happy to communicate with all of you, get to know you a little bit, or answer any more questions you might have. I will be uploading a follow-up video for my Retroid Pocket 2. The first video that I did was just kind of a review out of the box, what to expect, what is there at day one. I'm going to be optimizing it a little bit more and uploading a new video for the Retroid Pocket 2 after I have everything set up and everything kind of optimized after spending a little bit of time with it. So anyway, keep an eye out for that, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a good day.